All right, good morning, everyone. We are live. We got a special guest here. We got Dion from Dion Talk Financial Freedom and Curtis, PE turned RE. So, morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Howdy.
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of a fun one. So, if you guys haven't been following along the past few lives, we've been talking to Curtis, who is in a somewhat of an expensive market to invest in. So, he's been thinking about the idea of possibly going out of state to accelerate what he's working on right now. And if you guys also haven't noticed, Dion had an episode with Zuber talking about Curtis's kind of the 10-year plan or the vision, and maybe not feeling like he's ahead of his goals, I guess, or his results. So Dion's here to try to tell Curtis maybe he should double down on what he's doing and not think about investing out of state. So Curtis, maybe why don't you give everyone kind of a recap on where you are at right now, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so I started in 2022. I house hacked a duplex here in Tacoma, and then I house hacked a triplex in 2024. I'm probably a couple months away of making another move, but where that move is or what that is, I'm not quite sure yet.
All right. And then I mean, Dion, maybe you can kind of recap a little bit of that video you did with Zuber talking about Curtis's journey.
Sure. It was actually a day we spent together. And it's one of the things that's really important about getting around community and getting around people that you want to do what they've done. But 30 minutes is not enough. When you hang out with somebody for 30 minutes, you're catching up, you're not even breaking the ice. So we took a day. Curtis came to my house. We took the ferry with Josh and his dad. We went over to Seattle. We had lunch on the waterfront. We took the ferry back. We took the slow ferry. So we had, a good 4 or 5 hours together. And it was at about the fourth hour where both Curtis and Josh could actually sit back, and I could tell the conversation shifted to, this is what matters. They're past we're hanging out. We hardly ever get to see each other in person. So if you can get into those local REI meetups, find the people that have done what you want to do and get some time around them. Get enough time to where you get past the awkwardness of a conversation and you can actually talk and absorb whatever's talked about. And Curtis said a genius thing, and it prompted me to do some research on my own 10-year journey to get to financial freedom, and then create the data on what it was like. Because Curtis was saying, I understand it's a 10-year journey. I'm in year 3. And so I'm probably going to butcher it, Curtis, but this is what I remember from the conversation. You said I'm 3 years in, so I'm about a third of the way there, but I'm not a third of the way to my goal. And that made me realize the first 5 years suck because of hockey stick growth. So the idea, and I'm not, the tech guy, the idea is our brain says, if you could put that up, Mark, this is what our goal is. In 10 years, you want a cash flow goal, 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand. It doesn't matter what your goal is, but our brain expects it to be a linear path from 0 to the goal. So halfway there, you should be 50% to your goal. You're a third of the way. That's not exactly how it went. When you got to a third of that path and you're in a hockey stick growth method, your brain says, if my goal is 20,000 and I'm a third of the way there, I should be making $6,000. In year 3, my cash flow wasn't even $1,000. So you're in year 3, Curtis. Is your cash flow over $1,000 a month?
Not quite, no.
Okay. So is it less than 600 a month?
No, it is
You're
more.
better than I am at year 3. Now in year 10, I don't have to work ever again. I save somewhere between 10 and 15 grand a month towards the next investment or the next stupid toy that I'm going to buy. Is that close enough? Like at the 10-year point, getting to where I'm at, would that make these first 3 years worth it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that's the first step, is understanding the non-linear growth, right? In year 6, it's even going to be worse. I don't need to pull up those charts, but in year 6, your brain is going to be saying you should be making $12,000 a month because you're 2/3 of the way there. I wasn't even making, I think, $5,000 a month then. So it is in those last few years when all the magic happens and you have more levers to pull. Levers like we're going to talk about in this video, where tell me why you're considering out-of-state investing versus investing in Washington State, where you live, this communist state that lives on racism and hates white people. But go ahead.
Well, sometimes it helps me, but
It's going to help your brother, and I really hope it
yeah.
does, because he should take advantage of the system. It's like when people said Trump doesn't pay any taxes. He said that's right, because that's the system.
Mhm. Yeah, but so the reason I was considering the out of state was I just see all the cash flow like and numbers. I'm like, oh wow, okay, that could really increase me towards sort of the expectation where I think I should be at. Um, and then I was like, okay, and it's a lower cost, so it'd be about the same cost as house hacking, but it'd be like instant cash flow. For house hacking, you kind of have to wait till you move out to really see that net increase in income. Whereas if I purchase out of state, it's like that instant pop.
Okay. So we'll go through more of it, but the first thing is the down payment on a house hack here is about the same as buying a rental there. Is that what you're saying? The
Yeah.
20% down there is like the 5% here to you.
hmm
Okay. What's the interest rate on a non-owner occupied house versus an owner occupied house?
I've been seeing rates at like 6.8 to 7.2, kind of that range.
And if you owner occupy, it's about a half a point less.
hmm
Okay, so you get the better rate. The levered appreciation and levered depreciation is more with 95% leverage than it is with 80% leverage, right? So you have the benefit of that for the house hacking. But I'm going to correct something, because up to then it's just like which one matters to you more. But here's a correction. If you buy the rental there, you say it's an instant increase to your cash flow, right? If you buy a house hack here, you have to wait till you move out. Is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What happens to the unit that you're currently living in when you buy a house hack where you live?
What happens to the unit that
Where
where I
you're at right
currently
now,
live?
physically in your house, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What happens to that space when you move out, when you move into your next house hack?
Oh, I can rent this one out.
It's an instant increase to your income, exactly like buying the one out of state. So we can remove
hmm
that from the pro or con because it's a net law. It's a zero sum game. You have
hmm
you gain rental income if you buy out of state, and you gain rental income if you move into a house hack, because the house hack should continue to reduce or eliminate your housing expense, but you get to rent out the unit you're in. So I went from my first house hack, which was a duplex, lived there for 7 years. So I didn't even house hack as often as you are. Your growth will be faster than mine. And I moved into the fourplex. And I always thought, okay, so I move into the fourplex. This is really cool. I'm getting paid like $1,700 a month to live here. This was in 2020. So it would be more now probably. But then my stupid caveman brain completely skipped. I get to rent out the unit of the duplex that I wasn't in, that I was paying a little bit to be there. And now it was making money every month. So it is just as much a gain to buy here. For me to determine whether I'm going to buy out of state or in state, and I'm writing a book, and I've got 2 sections. One is why I invested in a high cost of living market. That's done for the book, and part of it is more appreciation, more principal pay down. You can put 20% down on a rental out of state, or you can put 5% down on a rental in state. Which one has a higher value, right? If you're buying out of state, let's say it's $100,000 house, you put $20,000 down. If it's in Washington, it's going to be a minimum $400,000. You're going to put $20,000 down. So you're putting the same amount of money down. Next year, if there's 5% appreciation, so let's not even say that the higher cost of living area appreciates more. Let's just say they appreciate 5%. How much is the Indiana house worth now? If you bought a $100,000 house,
Oh, yeah, it's worth 105.
Okay. And how much is the Washington $400,000 property worth if it went up
Was that
5%?
420?
420. So you gain 20 grand versus you gain 5 grand. You have principal pay down. What's the principal pay down on $100,000? $1,000. It's about 1% a year. So you get $1,000. Principal pay down on the $400,000 in Washington, it's about $4,000. So even let's say cash flow was the same. You can buy the rental in Indiana and it made $1,000 a month. You buy the one in Washington, you move out of where you're at, you're going to rent it out for at least $1,000 a month. So I'm saying the Indiana property is an amazing deal. You're going to make $1,000, right? On $20,000 down, that's not what you're going to make, but it's an amazing deal. So in both cases, you make $12,000 a year. One is $12,000 plus $1,000 in pay down plus $5,000 in appreciation. You have $18,000. That's what you make out of state on an amazing rental. In Washington, it's a lot more. I could do the math, but I'd better have a whiteboard if I'm going to talk that much numbers on a YouTube video. All right. So the high cost of living area mathematically makes more sense to me because I need fewer properties to create and generate more cash flow. Millennial Mike is killing it with 27 rentals out of state with a property manager. If you go out of state, you're probably going to have a property manager and you understand they're going to make more money than you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the high cost of living. The other thing, the other chapter, not chapter, it's a section of the chapter that I'm writing for the book, is why I chose a blue state over a red state. So I'll let Mark go with this. You live in a blue state, Hawaii, right? It's surrounded by blue. It's also blue, but you invest at a distance where it's landlord friendly, right?
Very much.
Okay. Tell me some of the reasons why you prefer the landlord friendly state.
Typically it's just easier to, it's not just landlord friendly also, but just even from the whole, permitting and doing work type of thing. So just an overall aspect of everything is just easier to accomplish in a sense. So, from the landlord friendly point, you're talking about maybe the eviction process going quicker, not having to, the tenants don't have as much, I guess, power in a sense, how you'd put it, right? So you have more control of your own property. And just even when getting work done on your property, you don't have to jump through as many hoops, and the process typically is a lot quicker.
I'll be the first one to admit permit processes in a blue state suck. Okay.
I think Hawaii might be worse though, but we can. That's another day maybe.
Well, yeah, if you look at, they've got what, 3 foundations started in that city that got wiped out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's, in my opinion, only it's criminal.
Oh yes.
So I take this from Grant Cardone. You guys both know who Grant Cardone is, hopefully. Okay. Very successful. He says if it doesn't have 32 units, don't even talk to him, but he started with single family. So here we are doing the same thing he did. He's been on Bigger Pockets a couple of times, and in one of his episodes, I think it was episode 250. So we did dinosaur days years ago now. He said, and it made sense to me why he invests in a blue state. He says, first of all, the permit process sucks, right? Just getting something done sucks. So you have less investors who want to compete with you. You have less builders who want to fight the system to create those houses. So when there's less supply and a lot of demand, what happens to values, Curtis?
Oh, did they go up?
Okay. So have you ever Googled what is the most appreciating state in the United States for the last 15 years?
It's ours.
It's Washington State, because it sucks to live here if you're a contractor or an investor. I like less competition, right? Why I have my leases end in the winter. It's why I don't want to invest in a good school district. Look at how many families want to own in a good school district. You increase your competition. So I was in a similar situation where I was thinking, okay, I can invest out of state or in state. And if you invested out of state, what state would you choose?
Oh, just for this, let's say it's Pittsburgh, since that's where Mark is.
Okay. Do you have family in Pittsburgh?
No.
Okay. Do you have a close friend in Pittsburgh that's actually going to come to your funeral?
Not yet. Well, Jack might.
I think Jack would.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you need, is those boots on the ground. So I know Jack, if we're talking about the same Jack, he has systems in place. He's super smart. Okay, so that's what Millennial Mike did. Is he watched Mark Matsky invest in Gary, Indiana. I think Mark got to like 25 rentals or something, and then Mike said, "Okay, you haven't fallen on your face." And Mark and Mike are probably about the same intellect level, so Mike said, "I could do what you're doing," and he jumped on his coattails and invested there as well. So that's what, if you're doing that, if you go, okay, I got to know Jack, you figure out how you add value to Jack. If it's interacting, help him grow his YouTube channel or whatever it is, going out to meet him. And he'll share his resources of these are the contractors he uses. Here's the neighborhoods to avoid. Here's the agent that I trust. Here's the property manager that you should use, or whatever it is. So as long as you have those type of trusted boots on the ground, sure. But there's so many people that go, I live in San Francisco and I want to invest in Boise, Idaho, which is what happened when the pandemic hit. Everybody's like, I don't like these stupid laws that I voted for. And so they go to move to Idaho and vote the same way. And they go there and they get a hold of an agent and they say, I live in California. I have California money. And the agent says, oh man, have I got the deal for you? Look at how good the math is on this deal. That every single local investor passed on for a ton of reasons. So you'll absolutely go bankrupt and fall flat on your face and have that boomerang effect that we had all the Boise investors going back to California. But if you have the trusted boots on the ground, okay, that's a consideration. So that's what I did. I had Mike in place. You have Jack in place. And probably check with Jack too, right? Make no assumptions. Second thing I did is I set a timeline. I sat down in 2022, the end of 2022, and I said, okay, I'm going to give myself a year. I have to learn these new markets. I shifted out so I was in, closer to Tacoma and Olympia for the last decade. And then I thought remote work has gone out a little bit, pushed up rents, but not prices. So I expanded out. I found 11 new markets. If you want, Curtis, I will send you the 11 markets that I found in our area so you can see which one's close enough to where your school is that you teach at to know if it's in commutable distance or not. I found 2 of those markets because we can't study 11 markets. I found 2 I would invest in. And that found a ton of deals because the rents had pushed up. If you got to Mason County and Kitsap County, the rents have doubled in the last 3 years. Prices went up probably 30%. That's a pretty good price to rent ratio that's still there. If they're not amazing deals, you're going to get better than break even. But you're probably not going to hit 10% cash on cash return, but you're going to get way better than you will in Pierce and Thurston County where you are now. And then give it a year. Like you have to study the market. That's right out of One Rental at a Time's playbook. It takes 60 to 90 days. Study the rents. Don't just take a snapshot. Go through and figure out, Matt will say, look at the last data, look at the ones that are done, but you want to look at the ones that are listed now. Do they go up? Do they sit for a while and have to come down? Do they get taken off and come back at more? What rents more in Shelton or where you're going to, maybe it's Eatonville, something up there, like the pitch of your driveway will rent for significantly more than a pitched driveway because they get so much snow in Eatonville. It's closer to Mount Rainier. So you have to literally think in this local market that I'm now expanding to, 60 to 90 days to learn the market, even with your experience. So even with my decade of experience, I gave myself, 60 to 90 days to learn those new markets that I'd lived next to for a decade, for 3 decades probably, but as an investor. And then I said, if I don't find what I'm looking for in a year, that's my hard stop. So if you don't find the next house hack within 6 months or a year, you pick whatever works for you, that makes sense. You would be okay living there. You're okay with the commute. You see yourself living there. You get to rent out the unit that you're moving out of. Then maybe you think, okay, so you have a year to get to know Jack better, to provide value to Jack, to make sure you're ready to use his systems. If you don't find it in a year, but you have that year, you will probably find a house hack where you've owned one, you said, since 2022. So you've had 3 years of appreciation. You probably have a better equity position in that property than the one that you bought in 2023. Yeah, 2024. Sorry, the second one was last year. But within this next year, you're also still getting appreciation. You're still experiencing principal pay down. I would look at your portfolio for your overall levered position. That could also tell me if I want to do another house hack. If you're 95% levered, I don't know if I'd do another house hack. If you're 85% levered, I could literally sit down and do the math, and we could do it together if you like. Because I don't want to be so close to where if you decide you have to sell a property, you don't want to be in a position where you have to write a check.
Oh yeah.
So you want some leverage.
And I guess that is the one downside of house hacking is if someone ever has a life event happen and they have to sell, well, now you may have to write that check.
Right. Yeah. So you don't want to be in that position. You want to be able to walk away from an asset, at least break even. It's okay. To my mind, it's always okay to lose money that was from the past. You don't want to lose money that's you have to get in the future. That's the wrong
Mm-hmm.
kind of debt. So the benefits of investing in a blue state, right? Less competition, more appreciation, less builds happening. House hacking is more impactful, right? If you lived in Pittsburgh, I would say house hacking is less important. If the properties can be purchased for 20% down, the same price as a 5% down here, you're not going to be saving as much. How much would the unit you're in now rent for when you move out?
Uh, Probably like 15 to 17. It just depends
Okay.
on if I keep the two bed or the one bed.
And since you already incur all of the expenses on that profit, that's a direct increase to your bottom line, not your top line. That's
Hmm.
massive. You know how much of an increase it would take on your income on a new property to get $1,700 or $1,500 even? You'd
No.
have to have it's a huge change. So, Mark, if you like, you want to go through any of those questions? We're totally fine with that.
No, no, I'm just showing what some people are commenting. So I don't know where if you guys want to continue on your path, or if you want to dig into some of like Chester. I guess quickly, maybe I'll just throw this out there too. And I don't know if this is what Curtis is thinking or whatnot, but are you getting tired of house hacking? Possibly, is that maybe why you're considering going out of state?
Well, it's not too bad right now. It is harder to find a roommate than I had expected, but I think it's just because my standards is a little bit different. We talked about the pet issue before, but um, the house hacking really isn't too bad. The worst thing is one, trying to find like the roommate, and then two, I didn't realize how creaky the floors above me were. And so hearing some of that, I'm like, oh God, do I really want to do this again? But if that's really the worst thing, I can make it through. You know, like I didn't have a shower or kitchen in the last one, so this place is kind of like the luxury. I can not leave my house and be fine.
So, if you don't add a roommate and you remove the work that it was to screen for roommates,
Mhm.
the house hacking is not too bad. The creaky roof floor thing, that's something you can hire a contractor, get a handyman out there to inspect that upstairs, find the areas that are creaking. They can do it with the carpet in place. They don't even have to
Oh,
take it up. They can fix it. Maybe, right? Maybe it's a
right.
position where they can just tighten a few things. So there's some not very expensive ways to work on that. I'm not a fan of house hacking with roommates. I don't know if you know this or not, but people suck. They really do. And the house hacking thing, the way you have now, I mean, how many millions of families live in apartments?
Yeah, true.
And you just live in an apartment, but you get to screen the neighbors.
Hmm.
And your next house hack might be a house with an ADU. There are people who say they get tired of house hacking. If it's like Jeff and Suleika, the PTO for life, 9 house hacks, always with roommates, and they're a couple, I would be done. I would be absolutely
Hmm.
done. They've built their foundation. Now they can go and buy their house or whatever. But I don't think I will ever stop house hacking because I don't do it with roommates. I want
Hmm.
somebody on the property when I travel. I'm addicted to living for free or getting paid to live where I'm at. Uh, and there are ways to buy a house with an ADU where you have your own fenced yard. It's no different than living in a house, but somebody's also paying to live on the property.
Yeah, that addicted to living for free is definitely real. Because the first house hack, I was able to get it down to like I was there for free, and then this one I'm paying like $700. That might be going up. I just got the tax free assessment, but basically half of what the market like the rent is, and I'm like, I could probably get that down more.
And so you've owned it for a year. So this year, I mean, although rent control passed, there's probably a question about that. There was some bill they asked about, but I didn't see which one it was. I don't know that I would do a big rent increase this year. But next year, if you do the 7%, I would look at the math. 7% increase to your current rents. How does that look with the new taxes?
Oh, yeah.
Because
I haven't
remember,
looked this far ahead.
this is where I think of the law of small numbers, right? 7% of your gross is a massive change to your net. So let's just type it. What are the rents on the other 2 units?
1750 and 13.
And 13. Okay, so basically $4,000, right? Ish.
No, that's yeah. Well, that's
Or is that
3
3
grand.
grand? It's $3,000. Okay, yeah. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
You're the teacher. So 3,000. How much did the taxes go up?
Let's say it's like 280.
280 a year?
No, month.
A month.
Yeah,
Okay.
a month. Yeah.
Have you considered going to fight the county on that? That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, I have to look at the escrow to see if that's just taxes or if that's the insurance and taxes piece. Um, because I had
So
just got
if
the email
that's your
from.
escrow account, that's insurance and
Mhm.
taxes.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
And so have you you've been there a year, right? Have you reviewed your
Mhm.
insurance?
I need to because this
Because
is the time that yeah.
what can happen is your insurance can cancel your policy.
Mhm.
So your lender puts in place lender-based insurance, which covers the mortgage but not your property, covers the mortgage but not injury on your property. And it
Mm.
costs way more than your homeowner's insurance does. So at your
Yeah,
first renewal, make sure you contact your insurance company and see what happened to your insurance.
I know I still have it under State Farm because I have like a umbrella and it's covering the other property too. But this is the time of year where I get the emails about the renewal
Do you know how much your State Farm insurance is?
for this place by itself. No,
Okay.
I'd have to go look at the spreadsheet to see.
So I got
But
a quote from State Farm and Progressive and Allstate. And then I got
mm,
my quote from Geico, and Geico was a fifth for the same or better coverage, fifth of price.
mm,
We're talking like $3,700 versus $1,100. Okay, it was a
okay.
massive difference. So if you have State Farm, I would definitely shop around and check out with Geico. In our state, underwritten by Stillwater, which has a good reputation and even increased values, you might be able to significantly reduce that insurance, depending on the price that you got. Maybe you got the
Oh,
magical low quote that I never found.
yeah, because when I first got quotes, State Farm was like the lowest. Because if you have the umbrella, then all the properties have to be under them. And so when I first got the quote, State Farm was the lowest. But would you say that somebody should check every year or every time they go to buy a property?
So you should check every time you buy a property, and then every couple. I'm way too lazy to do it every year, right?
Mhm.
I don't even have a big portfolio. I just have 8 properties, but every couple of years, I'm looking around for quotes just to make sure. And then I learned this from that ADU guy when he came and talked in the course is ask questions because they don't present you the information. You have to ask. How much is earthquake insurance? How much is lost rent coverage? And what is the current uh, replacement value insured on my policies, and how much would it cost to increase it? Because sometimes you can add a couple $100,000 to the replacement value of your house, and it's like $15 a year, like a
Mm.
ridiculously small amount. Um, but you don't know unless you ask those questions.
I think it's kind of odd that they don't tell you. I would think they'd want to give you more.
That's not how it works. They're not paid for
Mm.
upselling like at an oil change shop. You need your
Oh,
cabin
okay.
filter changed. You need your tires rotated. They don't get paid like that. They get paid for having a policy.
Mm.
The brokerage, I'm not a professional at this, but the way I've been explained is they get paid for collecting the payment. They get paid for giving out the policy. They don't get paid for all of the extras or increasing your insurance like you would expect. You think they're getting paid a percentage, so if you pay
Mhm.
more they make more. It's not that way. So
Hmm. All right, I'll be calling my insurance guy.
All right. I
insurance,
just oh
Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I saw Frank tune in, so I wanted to remind everyone, Old Guy REI is still selling the t-shirts, the ORAT t-shirts, to raise money for the Blind Center, where the ORAT event will be held next February. So if you haven't, I'll put the PayPal link in the chat. So go please order from Frank. And there's the front of the shirt, and the back says, I found my tribe. So it's a really nice shirt. I wore it to the event that Zuber spoke at this weekend. And yeah, it's very comfortable. So if you haven't picked one up, go reach out to Frank and get yours on order.
I have a comment here from Barefoot Travels and Wine, where he says, or they say, they probably, I don't know, assumptions, doesn't think his wife would be down for a house hack. I met with a guy in Florida when I was there a few years ago learning the market for a friend, and he said he wanted the house hack. I think he was house hacking, but he wanted the house hack again, and he didn't think his wife would be on board. And so the first thing would be, what version of house hacking is off the table? With a spouse, maybe with kids, roommates are probably off the table. If you live in a house now where you have your own fenced yard, maybe a duplex, triplex, or fourplex is off the table. I have a triplex that's a 2,500 square foot house and a duplex, 2-1, 2-1 on each side, with all of their own fenced yards. The tenants in the house probably don't know the duplex is on the same property. So there's versions of house hacking where you can do that. But what I did with the guy in Florida is I said, well, what matters to your spouse? Maybe financial freedom is not even on their radar. Maybe retiring early is not something they care about. They like their job. They like the social interaction. They don't have the stress of thinking if they lost their job, you would lose everything. That usually falls on the primary breadwinner, right? So he was in this situation where he made more money. So what did matter to his spouse? Money. So his house hack that he wanted to do increased their cash flow by about $600 a month. We did the math on the one he was looking at buying. So I said, well, let's break this down. You go to your spouse and you say, there's $600 more a month coming in. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll take $200 of that. That's hers. He can never ask her what she does with it. He can never check, never see a receipt, never care. She can take her friends to lunch. She can buy stuff. She can save it. She can whatever she wants. It's hers. The 400 isn't his because he's the one who wants the financial increase from owning another property. The 400 goes towards investing on the next property. So he shows he's not getting a financial gain for spending, for saving, for anything like that. It's just for more investing. She was on board. It was what matters to her. So Barefoot Travels and Wine, if they're not on board with a house hack, what type of house hack would they be okay with? And what matters to them? Can you make the deal provide that?
So Flavio from Grandview, Washington says, thanks to rent control, I'm going to make $800 a month extra. Is that the bill that Chester mentioned earlier?
There's two bills. The first bill is the rent control. The second one is the racist one that did pass, got signed into law. Where as long as you're not white, and then so many people have attacked me and said, well, it says you have to also be affected by the law from 1960. No, I said there's like 6 ways to qualify for this. One of them is you were affected by the 1968 law. So for those pedantic people. But yeah, Flavio, I did a whiteboard video where rent control is proven mathematically, the rent increase is already in place, is making by 2027, so 2 years, $138,000 more in profit than I was going to make. Thank you, liberals.
Let's see. Was that so? Do you want to dig into that question about the bill that Chester was asking about, or maybe later?
We can. I mean, because I'm not so I'm in support of anybody taking advantage of the system if the system is set up to benefit them. If you work for money, if you have a job, a W-2, that's the dumbest way to make money. We all have to do it for a period of time. Not all, 88% of us have to do that for a period of time, right? 12% of people inherited wealth. But the rest of us, you have to make money, invest in stocks, crypto, grow a business, buy real estate, something to put your money to work. And I can prove that it's the dumbest way to make money because it's a sin tax. The government doesn't want you to smoke, tax cigarettes. The government doesn't want you to drink, tax alcohol. The Government doesn't want you to work, so it's the highest form of taxed income. W-2 income gets taxed the most. So they incentivize investing. The system is there to benefit people who do what the system wants. Well, in Washington, somebody thinks the end result will be more people of color will buy houses if we give first-time homebuyer assistance to the people who aren't white. And that's the way the bill is written. You just can't be white. California had it. You just couldn't be a citizen, right? So that these laws happen in all different places. Washington had it. I've used it. In 2000, I purchased a house with it was just, you just had to be low income, 80% or less, and your race didn't matter. And you could buy a house with a down payment assistance. So I've used the system. I think anybody like Curtis's brother that qualifies should be trying to use the system. Millennial Mike and I have a friend, Darius. He used the system. I think he was like 130 something thousand down. What happened is the bill came out earlier this year, and originally it was you had to make 80% or less, and you had to be economically disenfranchised, be from the cultures that have been oppressed by systemic racism from 2,000 years ago or whatever it was. But now they've said, well, we're not going to tie it to income. You can even be doing better than everyone else. You can be doing 120% of the area median income, which in our state, median is about 120,000. So you could be making whatever 120% of that is and still get a forgivable $150,000 down payment to buy a house. Though there are people who will qualify, not enough will take advantage of it. But if this was more broadly introduced, it would cause prices to go up.
Yeah, so this was kind of, they had a loan like this that actually came out a little bit like last year too. It wasn't like a state law, but they had some loan officers offered the product kind of like this. I don't know if it's going to get easier now that the bill is in place, but for some of the loan officers I heard it was difficult to get it through. It may just be a them issue, but I think I'm going to have a few on to talk about it actually on my that channel to see on okay, what do people actually have to do? Do they just have to show up at the loan office and say, "Hey, I'm black," and then they get the money, or like what do they actually have to do?
Yeah, and well, I mean, so
It's gonna have some tropic thunder. People are gonna start painting their faces.
I mean, let's quantify that. You purchased your first house in Tacoma.
Hmm.
Was the loan easy to get?
The first one?
Yeah. What did the lender want from you?
Oh yeah, so they wanted like pay stubs, bank statements, my retirement account, the lease from the other side that I'd be inheriting, just kind of things like that.
So a bunch of hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
It's never not going to be that way, right? They learned their lesson, I think, in 2005, 6, and 7 when they had ninja loans.
Hmm.
No income, no job, self-verification. You say you make whatever you make. Credit scores were really low. Adjustable rates were popular, so it imploded. Right now, lending criteria is pretty hard. I mean, I purchased a house in 2021. Like most people who purchased a house, you have a stack of papers that get notarized. So that the mobile notary earns their $200 because it takes 45 minutes for you to initial every page, right? My last purchase, I purchased all cash, 5 sheets of paper. The mobile notary was still $200. They didn't earn their money that day. They just got a gift. So lending is the barrier to buying. What lenders require, what needs to be recorded, all of that information. It is going to seem like a challenge. I don't think that proving your race is going to be the challenge. I think getting the loan.
Well, it's for their program at the time. Again, this may change with the law, but you had to prove your family was here at a certain date. Like you had to prove your family was here in 1968 or 69 or something like that. So I think some people were having that struggle.
That's one of the qualifiers, right?
Hmm.
If you're, so do you have family in Washington outside of your brother?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the odds that one day you sell all of your properties and move out of state?
What are the odds? That's a good question. I haven't really thought about selling. I'm kind of early in the journey, and when I think of sell, I think of like you're cashing out and you're done. I think I'm a bit a ways from that point.
So have you ever played a video game, Curtis? I know you're into sports, but have you ever played any video
Oh
game?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. What are some of the most popular games you've played?
Oh, I played all the kinds, but I think I know where you're headed with this one, right? Like when you have a character, you kind of want to know what that character's going to be like at the end.
So it's game theory from online video games. You have an end goal, right? A class or a race or whatever you're going to play in that video game, whether it's stealth, whether it's tank, healer, whatever version of the game you're playing. The path to get there is easier to determine if you know the end goal, right? If you're not thinking of your exit plan, you won't know how to build. It's the same way in life. When you go to invest in real estate, you're the character. You want financial freedom. You want to make work optional. So that part is kind of easy, buy cash flowing assets. But you're also eventually going to be a character that is so old, you don't want to own rentals, or the laws become so hard to manage rentals that you don't have them. So if you could be thinking now of 35 years from now, what is it going to be like with your portfolio? Then you'll know, because there's some decisions that you have to make. Do you take out your equity? Right? You've had that first property since 2022.
Mhm.
Eventually, there's going to be a couple $100,000 in equity sitting in that property. If you don't know your exit strategy, you might do the wrong thing with that equity,
Mhm.
which could be taken out. It could be leave it in. Either one of those could be wrong based on what you want your end goal to be.
Mhm.
So you don't have to come up with it here on the spot, but I would probably sit down and pencil out or have a conversation with ChatGPT. Here's my goals. Here's my age. Here's what I want to be doing by this time, and see what the results are of what are the possible exit strategies that you could do, and what parts of your investing strategy now line up with that happening. And that's probably going to change a few times over the years. But if you're not
Mhm.
tracking it, you'll make counterproductive moves.
Yeah, I think one thing that I was listening to Cody and Christian, and they always talk about what pieces do you have on the table, and I started with zero, so I was like, okay, well, let me just get as more pieces on the table, and then I can kind of figure out what I want to either keep doing or change to.
Cool.
All right, I guess Lynn has a question for me. So Lynn's in California. Go check out her YouTube channel also. She was just also on Bigger Pockets, so I'll put that in the chat soon. But so Lynn's in California, but she also invests out of state, in Gary, Indiana. But she's also doing like an ADU build in her backyard right now. So she is investing in multiple places. But she's asking, how do I feel about Dion advising against investing out of state, being that the majority of my investments are in Pittsburgh? I guess for me, the easiest answer for me is it is not for everyone. So I think that's the number one thing is people really have to understand themselves, and sometimes they may have to take smaller returns because they're just more comfortable investing in their backyard. So definitely, investing out of state is not for everyone, and it's not easy, and it has its own challenges. So that's just something you have to address on your own. But I would also agree with Dion's point. So I kind of like what's the frugal gay who spoke at the ORAD event. He is investing in two markets. He's investing in Toledo, Ohio, more for the cash flow, but then he brings that cash flow back to Texas, where he lives, I believe, and he's investing in a higher appreciation market. So he's kind of using both markets to its advantage, and that's kind of I do have my primary residence in Hawaii, which has kind of turned into a rental now. So I'm renting that out, moved back with my parents as they're getting older to help them out. So I'm getting the benefits of the cash flow in Pittsburgh, but I'm also getting appreciation in some properties in Hawaii. So I am taking advantage of both cases. And like Dion's point is, these blue states are, there's less competition also from that standpoint. So you're getting the higher appreciation. So if you can figure out that blend to make it work, then I definitely think that would be the best way to do it.
Well, let's clarify a little bit about what the conversation here is today. Curtis didn't say, should I save up 20% and invest in Pittsburgh or save up 20% and invest in Washington? In your position, Curtis, saving up 20% in Washington is 4-year journey. And the appreciation might outpace you saving. The question was, should I house hack in Washington or should I buy out of state? Because it's about the same amount of money for the 20% down payment in Pittsburgh as it is the 5% down payment in Washington. Millennial Mike is, I want to call him a genius. Also, two things. One, first, Mike had the baby. Mike's girl had the baby, whatever. They had a baby. And happy birthday, Matt Hawkins, the lumberjack landlord. But back on point. If Lynn is in California and investing out of state, are you house hacking in California? Because the higher cost of living area, house hacking has a bigger impact. I'm encouraging Curtis to continue house hacking. For years, talking with Millennial Mike, I think 5 years now, he's been house hacking a duplex. I told him, and he keeps buying in Gary, Indiana, because the down payment is less. The dopamine hit happens more because he's getting more price at like 27 units or so. He would never have acquired 27 units in Washington by now. But I've told him, if you do a second house hack in Washington, look at the impact that has to your finances versus it's probably like buying 5 properties in Indiana. So do a second house hack and then continue to invest out of state. So I'm not saying to invest in the expensive state. That's not for everybody. I'm saying I encourage house hacking because the more expensive the state you live in, the more impact it can be. So Curtis, if you don't house hack, out of state's probably better for you.
Mm-hmm. So what do you say to the folks? So the past few months, I've looked at the market, right, but I don't really have the cash uh, to do it, right? So, but I have some friends that do want a house hack. Well, so what do you say to the people that want a house hack now, but the prices are obviously high, the rates are high, so they're like, okay, but when I move out of the house hack, it's not going to cash flow. So what do you tell those people?
Expand your market, just like I did. Find that equilibrium between rents and rates. It's there. If they're in this area, it's Shelton, it's Kitsap. It's not in Bremerton. It's outside of Bremerton. But I see deals on the market. I hesitate to look at the deals because I want to buy, but I want to get some more traveling done this summer. But then I want to buy. If I looked right now, I would probably find 5 deals I would compete for, and that was just a cursory glance the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to be in Pierce County, Thurston County, close to Olympia. It's going to be further out, Shelton, Yelm. I want to say almost Eatonville, but not quite that far. Graham. The gold mine, if it goes through, the people who will have the ability to double their net worth overnight is if the international airport gets put in Graham, Washington. Everyone who owns within 15 miles of Graham, Washington, their value of their property will double overnight. Their frustration at traffic will double overnight. And it'll be a 5 to 10 year build, but just the fact that it's going in will increase the demand there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Frank is ready to take his shots right now, or take your criticism. So Frank says, yeah, it might be better if you invest in 4 or 5 different states.
So I actually have that as a note here. I was going to talk about a few things to clarify. First, we're talking about house hacking. We're talking about recycling cash flow, but I also put 5 markets. I was going to reference Frank. That's not wrong. When I started talking about focusing on one market, I'm in at least 5 markets. Right? So I could just list them. I'm in Parkland, Spanaway, McKenna, Yelm, Tumwater, Kitsap County, different county completely. None of 2 of my properties are probably in one market. Frank is in markets with a property manager. So it's not like he has to have the contractors or handymen that I do. I have to have different handymen and contractors because they won't go to all of my properties. I think I'm more spread out than Frank is, even though Frank is in 5 different, I want to say states. I don't know if they're states, but they're 5 different markets. So when I say things like focus on your market, for me, it's how far am I willing to drive? That's my market. Even though for taxes, for insurance, for handyman and contractors, it's several different markets. For rents, it's several different markets, right? Yelm doesn't get the same rent that Spanaway does. Yelm is what the Apache call the boonies, and Spanaway is right next to the base. So I think, Frank, when I talk about being in different markets, you're not. I think, Frank, you have the market you live in, your local market, and then you have your distance. And if you have a system that's good enough to find a property manager that'll manage those properties and you know how to screen them, I don't have a problem with that.
Looks like Charles presented Frank with his 6th market to look in. Yes, so yeah, Invest to Wealth tuned in, so he's saying in the Midwest is hot right now. Yeah, so I just got an AC actually earlier or yesterday. I had an AC maintenance request, and the AC company's like, yeah, they're swamped right now with calls right now. Hold on, let's see. Was there another? I saw another one I wanted to dig into. Well, I'll find it after. Curtis, so do you think maybe this is you're just want like Dion mentioned for Millennial Mike, it's the kind of dopamine hit, the excitement of acquiring properties. Is that also something maybe why maybe you're considering pivoting? And it's that more excitement of buying properties.
Yeah. I think that's definitely like a part of it. It might be the age thing where I kind of want the speed, and then also relating to the chart, like action seems like it's making me go closer to the actual goal, even though in reality it may be the same. I just have to wait until I move out of that house, right? But it's just okay. If I buy it, I move up in the line, but that's seeming not to be the truth.
So I have a video coming out later. It's either the end of this week or next week, because I want to get the shorter the video is, the harder it is to put it in order. Never underestimate the power of doing nothing. Next month, so literally just a month from now, we're in June, we're talking July. You'll have rents come in. You have principal pay down on your properties. You have more stabilized appearance to lenders. More experience as a landlord. You've since 2022, so you're past the 2-year mark. You have possible rent increases as you're coming up on lease renewals with different tenants. You can shop for insurance. Like, you started with nothing. You put some pieces on the board. Now you can move them, and not all of your pieces have to be the queen. You can move pawns. So what else can you do? What value add can you do? What happens if you find the roommate and then you want to move out?
Mm-hmm.
Because that roommate can't afford their place on their own. Like, you have to think of all the pieces you're doing. Does that then become you find 2 roommates that have to live with each other, and you do a rent by the room situation?
Yeah.
Or is it you hunt for that place, move out, rent this one out by its own? The next one you find might be more suitable to roommates.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to dig into it, Dion, but Joe V is asking, he's interested to hear Dion's thoughts on the global activities the last few days.
Without being political, what's the meme? Obama dropped over 500 drone strikes, and Trump did 3 locations. This stuff's been happening for decades. Don't let a macroscopic view intimidate you from making microscopic decisions. No, it's not going to impact the market. It's not going to impact rates. It's not going to make people want to sell. It's going to cause fear. And those videos that sell fear, uncertainty, and doubt are going to get more views. The 2 things that tell us when to buy have nothing to do with what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I think I forgot. I think there was a video or a meme, and it was like, no matter what Trump says or does, the other side is just going to disagree no matter what. So, like, if he said drinking water is going to kill you or is bad, all of a sudden everyone's going to, yeah.
I mean, it comes down to everything that he's done is horrible and evil and fascist. But you can pull up videos of Clinton, Obama, Biden doing the same thing, right? Obama deports over 5 million people. 70% of them didn't have a hearing. Fine. Who cares? We get the Maryland dad or whatever didn't have a hearing. Like 3 million plus people didn't, and it's a tragedy. We bomb one place and it's unconstitutional. Over 500 drone strikes. Who cares? It is absolutely. Where are you getting your news from? Both sides are trying to make you afraid. Both sides are trying to divide you. Both sides are trying to get clicks, right? The news media is no different than YouTube. They're tracking how many people are watching. And if they can say or do something that makes more people watch, even if it's because you disagree, they win.
When did this is kind of off topic, but both of you are probably old enough to know this. When did it make the shift? Because it couldn't always be that way, right? Because there used to be the newspaper, right? So when did it make the shift from here's the information to we're trying to get the views?
So the primary change happened when the internet became about likes. Once you can like something, and so people talk about this AI revolution because we have large language models now, but AI has been around for like 20 years. AI has been around as long as Netflix has been around. When you go on Netflix and it shows you, here's recommendations for you. What do you think is doing that? It's not an if then statement. It's based on these criteria. Here's what AI thinks would keep you on the platform longer. So that's how long algorithms have been around. And they just called it something different. Now we're calling it artificial intelligence because you can talk to it. Like that's the change, because it could talk to you like a person. So news, look at the ratings on like MSNBC, right? It's like a tenth of what it was 10 years ago, because they're based on who will watch the show. And then now people are catching on to, oh, they're using clickbait. They're using thumbnails and titles, just like YouTube. 10, 15 years ago, people didn't know that titles and thumbnails were what got you on a YouTube video, because YouTube wasn't as popular. People
Mhm.
didn't understand that that's how the news was working then too. And yeah, so we're old enough to remember you had 3 channels. And a lot of times you didn't have the news. No kidding. I know this is a meme, but it's like your aunt told you something when you were 5. It is illegal to have the dome light on in the car when your vehicle is in motion. And you thought that was a freaking law.
Yeah.
It's real. But then you got
Mhm.
news. And then you got, what does the news want you to think? You're a teacher,
Or
right? We teach PE. But in education, in the 8th grade, we had a civil war because of race and slavery, because we want to teach equality. Then you get to high school, we had a civil war because we had one man, one vote. We want to teach civics. Then you get to college, and then we say we had a civil war because of the industrial revolution of the North versus the plant rotation of the South, and the economics of it, because you want to teach what you're trying to teach dictates what information you put out. The news is the same way. What do they want you to think?
Mhm.
Here's the information you get to back that up. So, not a conspiracy theorist. If most of the news was owned by the right, we would have religious people. We would have more defunding of Planned Parenthood. But it's owned by the left, so we get, this is a mostly peaceful protest. Please ignore all of the videos or all of the firsthand people reports of what's actually going on. You get the report based on what they want, which is also going to get clicks. So, fear sells.
yeah, it's just like the you're not supposed to watch TV or read too close. It's bad for your vision. And now you have all virtual goggles, with the screen super close to your face. I think for me though, the biggest thing was like the pandemic period, because I think before that everyone was so busy, right? You're just doing your thing, you're working, you're going to work, going to activities, and you just weren't paying attention. The world kind of shut down, and you just had this time to like listen to YouTube or see different content, and you're like, wait a minute, all this stuff is going on, and when I've been going to work and I'm not paying attention, and now people, I think really that opened people's eyes and took the blinders off and had them see a different light out there. Let's see. Old guy REI says, just try to get back a little bit on topic. we've been trying to share some of the issues we've had because we bought too much too soon, but nobody seems to be listening. And that's kind of my claim to fame that Dion likes to point out also too. But yeah, definitely that's a good thing, Frank, that you're trying to share.
I think every time I reference that, people use it as an excuse to do more. When I say, I've got this friend, Mark, he lives in Hawaii, and he emptied out his retirement accounts and he bought 14 rentals in 2 years. And he's told me a couple of times he had some evictions and some tenant turnovers in those first 2 years, and it was really rough. And he wishes he scaled slower. No one hears what I said. What they hear is, oh, 14 units in 2 years? How much is in my retirement account? Like the brain just goes stupid. As soon as you think, I could have your end result, which is you're still alive, you're still investing, you didn't fall flat on your face. Do you look back and go, I could have done it better? Yes, but they're not hearing that. They won't hear you, Frank, when you say you bought too much too fast. They're going to hear, oh, if I can get in Frank's position, all I have to do is wait 3 months, let it stabilize, let those other 3 units get rented out like they did. Now look at Frank and Cynthia. Look how much money they have coming in. They don't see the challenge, no matter how clearly we put it out there. How many times have I talked about my first tenant and not having a lease and them renting the house out to someone else and taking the money? That doesn't register. People just see 10 years. I never have to work again. I hope they put the systems in place.
I pretty much, I mean, so I'm under contract right now, but I pretty much just sat on my hands for 4 years. And that's, so I think people are always wondering, hey, what are you doing? Why don't you update us? And I'm always just like, I'm just letting things kind of settle and building the reserves. And so it's been tough, kind of just sitting back, watching everyone make moves. But I think it just put me in a better position. And that's also why I think I'm under contract now, because I'm in a better position to take advantage of things. But yeah, it's been hard just kind of sitting on my hands for about 4 years and really stabilizing things in a sense, and even in building more relationships in Pittsburgh. So that's been good. But like you said, people probably don't hear that, and they're probably wondering, like, what is he doing? What's his portfolio look like, and all this type of stuff. So
well, let's flip the script. So you got to 14 in 2 years, and then you said did nothing for 4 years, and you're now under contract. So let's say you're not buying the new one right now. What does the cash flow look like on the existing portfolio after 4 years of doing nothing?
it's about $7,000 a month.
Yeah. And how much was it at the end of 2 years when you acquired them all?
I would say maybe 5. Yeah.
So you got to the end of those two, but you had all those evictions going on and the tenant turnovers going on.
Yeah.
So you weren't making $5,000 a month then.
Yeah, I mean, it was more trying to just replenish the reserves, and that's kind of why even the 4 years was just kind of sitting back and putting myself in a better position. And like I said, that's why, like right now, when when this deal comes across or whatnot, I'm in a much better position to make a move or make my offer stronger, or even, like, I think you touched on it on a few videos where you're willing to buy a break-even deal in a sense because you can see the vision for it. Maybe like right now, the duplex I'm under, or it's a duplex and a single family home, but the duplex is under market rents. But so I can see that vision, and because of my reserves and the position I put myself in, I'm willing to take on, like you said, like a break-even deal at the purchase price, but at the where it'll be at some point, it's going to be much greater than that.
That's the trap that a lot of people fall into. So you have the money to buy it. The rents right now are low, so it's kind of break even, but you can see after some time, after the rent increases, after fixing the property up, after stabilizing, not really doing anything, you could buy the property, and in a year or two, you'll have this kind of cash flow. There are other people who will go, I have the money in my account. That deal's just break even right now. I'm going to continue to save, and I'm going to continue to hunt for that deal that makes money day one when I buy it. And they sit on that money for a decade.
Yep.
They're not as bad as the people waiting for the crash or waiting for interest rates to come down. Because I can tell you exactly. I know the day that interest rates come down. I can tell you exactly when. Do you want to know?
I want to hear this. So when?
Here's the day that interest rates come down. The exact day is the same day prices skyrocket because of all of the increased demand from everybody else that's waiting for rates to come down, and every seller that says, oh, look at all the buying power people have now and all the things they qualify for. So yeah, if you're waiting for rates to come down, good job. You just paid 20% more for your property.
Curtis, Flavio says, Curtis, you sound frugal. Buy a shed, put it in your backyard, and move in and rent a room.
That's the all-nighter hider method.
So what's funny is I actually thought about it because I have a storage unit here, and so I was in there. I was measuring, trying to see if I could make it work or not. I just thought it'd be kind of weird to come. I still have to use the bathroom in this one, so I thought it'd be weird to go in and out of the front door.
Porta potty's only $90 a month.
I know I don't know how much people are doing this anymore, but would you be able to? Because like Ray has an RV, right? Would you be able to have an RV and Airbnb one of your units, and so like if someone does reserve it,
Mm,
then you can go stay in the RV. You know, if
mhm.
no one books it, then you stay in the house, or vice versa. You know.
Yeah, I looked into that. They're kind of more expensive than you would think, and the ones that are cheap would take a lot of like work, and I'm lazy. and so and so it's kind of weighing the pros and cons. Um, yeah.
I've got friends, Durango and Pod. They had a YouTube channel for like a week. I think then they turned it off. But that's what they did. They bought an RV that they were using every weekend, so they were already RV people, and it was a whatever fifth wheel, right? So it connects to a truck. Then they decided, well, let's just move in and Airbnb our house. And then they repeated that again, bought another property, lived in the RV, because that way they did an owner occupied purchase, but it was a full rental because they just lived on the RV. The rule is you have to live on the property. There's no rule you have to live in the house.
And Curtis from Michelle Parrott coming in from someone's channel, I think maybe Dion's, but it says, and Curtis has a lot of space to park an RV.
He does.
That is true.
I would put the bulletproof side towards the park.
Hey,
No, you know.
hey, I'm not going to say what happened was a good thing, but what I will say is that when I've gone on my walks, it feels a lot safer in our area. There's a cop at the park now, so
Nice.
pros and cons.
You guys are gonna get so Flavio is in Grandview, Washington, and he's always giving crap about investing in Pittsburgh and Gary that you need a bulletproof vest to walk around over there. So but see, I told Flavio, see, there's shootings over there also, so it happens everywhere.
That is why we call it Lake Hood.
Alex says the cities make it hard to stay in the RV. Okay.
Hmm.
And Flavio says sleep with the vest.
I agree with Julie saying a couple of properties out of state would bring a certain amount of financial security. That is actually true. Probably something that I should be considering. Thinking, eventually this state might do something that makes me move to another state in a preemptive move. I'm not there yet, but I should be considering it at least.
Me and Mikey told Zuber that he has to convince Dion that Hawaii is a great place to visit.
No. So I got a state that doesn't want to give you a loan if you're white. You're a state that doesn't like Howleys at all. Like,
that is not true.
I like to go places where they like us.
That is not. It's somewhat true to some extent.
Somewhat
but
true, yeah.
I mean,
mostly peaceful experience, right? That's what I'll have if I go there.
Michelle says she missed the. Maybe Michelle doesn't know about the story you mentioned, Curtis. I think maybe she's not familiar with the shooting.
Oh yeah, so I live by a park, and there was a shooting there a few weeks ago. And fortunately, was not home, but I heard all about it. There was a few kids that I actually teach that were at the park, so they told me all about it too.
All right. Sorry, we're supposed to say pew pew. Chester's reminding us we don't want to. Yeah, Chris. No, go ahead,
R-
Curtis.
Ray had Ray T. I'm not sure on who that is, but they had a question. Two things that tell us when to buy.
Would one of you want to present that, or would you like me to?
I know that the first one is when you're ready, be it you have the cash for the down payment, you have the reserves, you're not going through a divorce or marriage or kid, anything like that. And then number two is you found a good deal.
Yeah, most people think of the first one when they say you're ready, and they think, okay, I've got the down payment. You're ready means you've studied your market, you've educated yourself on your asset class, you'll be able to recognize a good deal, and you don't have those major life events going on: birth, death, divorce, right? Dating, anything that's going to take your focus away from actually being able to pay attention to investing. That's number one. Don't invest if you're not ready. If you're going through it in life right now, this is not the time. You can look at deals, you can distract yourself from your issues, but don't be making offers. The second thing is, did you find a great deal? Right? So many people make the wrong type of goals. There's outcome goals and action goals. An outcome goal is, I want to buy a rental by the end of 2025. Well, if it gets to November and you haven't found a good deal, you're probably going to make offers on some pretty crappy deals because your goal is to close on a deal by the end of the year. If your action goal is, I want to look at deals for 30 minutes a day, I want to meet one new investor every week or every month, however many people you can handle. I want to look at, I want to talk to my agent at least once a month to refine my auto search because it's not doing exactly what I want it to. Set action goals. You'll probably hit your outcome goal then. Like, it's not bad to have an outcome goal, but if you put everything on, I have to close on a deal by the end of this year, that sets you up for failure.
Yeah, Joe V is giving me crap because when I went to North Carolina in March, April, my son's mom was forced or insisted that I carry my passport with me because she was worried I was going to get deported. Yeah.
I'm Thai. I don't have my passport on me. I'm sorry. I was born in Thailand. Please deport me.
Oh yeah, that's the other memes out there
Right.
right now. I never got a chance to ask Zuber this, but I don't know your thoughts on it, Dion. So, and you talk about too, always, getting a great deal and looking for a great deal. But do you think that first deal, does it need to be a great deal? Like if someone was getting started, like a base hit is fine?
So none of my deals were great deals. When Zuber and Matt and I talk about buying a great deal, it's because we're financially free. We don't need more. But if a great deal pops up, we'll scoop it up. All of my deals were base hits. 3 of my purchases were break-even deals. 1, the mushroom farm was going away. The roundabout freeway overpass was clearing up a massive traffic issue next to like a Cabela's and a Walmart and a Home Depot. Like it was just massive, but they were putting in this new roundabout bridge thing that clears up the traffic. Another duplex, both sides had a den with a closet. Each of the dens on each side had a closet. All I had to do was put in a wall. So I waited for tenant turnover, but my 2-1 turned into 3-1s and turned it into a great deal. I'll buy good deals. So people focus on the math so much. That's the problem, right? Mine were good deals because the math was okay. Like I wasn't losing money. I didn't buy an alligator, but there was good parking. They had washer dryer hookups. They had pet friendly fenced yards. They were in neighborhoods I can go and collect a rent or send a handyman to without worrying about guns going off, even though I own one in Lake Hood. There's several economic drivers. They were spaced out from my other properties. What makes a property a good property is so much more than my stupid yield. Everyone is hung up on the math, and it's important. We practice the math, not till we get it right. We practice it till we can't get it wrong. And then it becomes this much of the equation of, do I buy this property or not? So yeah, some of mine were break-even deals, but look how many other boxes they checked off. If I was in growth mode today, I'd still be buying those deals.
Yeah, it's about trying to move the ball down the field, right? Like you can't just throw a deep pass every time. You got to do the little chunks, or you got to do the base hits now.
Well, we'll look at all the way back at the very beginning of this video for anybody that was here. One of the first things you said is if I buy a rental in another state, I get an instant increase to my rental income. And if I buy a house hack, it will be good once I move out. And what happens to the unit you're living in when you move into the new house hack? You get the instant rent increase here. Because even if the one you're in now was just a base hit, it's a lever that you move. When you move out, that base hit becomes a cash flow positive property.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Flavio says, Dion, I like your system. Lazy investor. You don't need too many rentals to have free financial freedom. Yeah.
I should do it, and I'm not going to do it now. But I want to do a video. I might do this tomorrow. I went to Chat GPT, and I got this from Joe Kuhn. I talk about his channel every now and then. He went to Chat GPT and he said, "Hey, tell me, watch all my videos and tell me what my channel got wrong." And so I have a list. I went through Chat, and I'm just going to share the screen so everybody can see all the weird things I look up on Chat GPT. But it's also going to say, here's what Dion Talk Financial Freedom gets wrong. And one of the things I get wrong is I call myself the lazy investor. And Chat says, you hustled, you had a side hustle, you skipped vacations, you drove old cars, you did all these things. That's not lazy. That took all this to put it together. And I said, that's right. So I need to clarify. And that's one of the 10 things I probably got wrong on my channel. You have to be the right kind of lazy. I don't want to work. So I worked really hard for 10 years. Instead of having a work balance of 5 days of hard work to have the weekend off, I had 10 years of hard work to have the rest of life off. So yeah, you need to be lazy, but you have to have the right kind of lazy. Kind of like Curtis, how often will you shop around for insurance rates? The lazy investor would just buy it and never look.
Mm-hmm.
But every couple of years, you can increase your cash flow by making sure you have the best insurance going on your properties.
Yes,
That takes work.
I should probably do it every year, but so far I've been doing it just for when I go by.
Yeah, and you have 2 properties now, so you're talking 5 emails, maybe 2 phone calls for each property to make sure you got the right stuff. That's not too much work. When it gets to 8, and people will laugh when I go, I could probably save $1,000 a year by shopping insurance every year, easily $1,000 a year. That's not worth the probably weeks worth of time it would take to do that.
Yeah. Well, Chester says lazy is the goal, not the mindset. And I always say Dion is not lazy. He's just efficient. Like he's become so efficient at what he does. It just seems like he's lazy. That's the way I kind of put it. Chris Webb, let's see. He says, what I failed to say about living in a duplex when my monthly payment dropped, it was really covered by the income I'm earning from the previous home I was now renting out. A net positive income.
I'm a fan of looking at the portfolio as a whole. What changed on everything? Zuber doesn't like to do that. He talks about buying Norris Drive, and I think he did a cash out refinance to buy 2 other properties, and Norris became his first alligator. He says, never buy a property that loses money because he took out too much money. But if you look at all 3 properties, the 2 he purchased and the one that he did the cash out, net overall, it was a positive increase. He doesn't like it when I point it out because I don't want people to think that way. But I look at the whole portfolio.
Yeah, I think sometimes that this is just my take. I think sometimes that's Zuber's kind of he's always concerned at how people's going to take it. So like he's saying about looking at the whole portfolio and even the base hit of view of things, right? He says always saying find a great deal. But that's where he's at in his journey, right? So yeah, well, I mean, do you guys want to dig into anything else about the out of state topic? I mean, I don't know how much time you guys have. If you guys want to pivot, if you had another topic you want to bring up, Dion or Curtis, you want any questions for
Curtis
Dion?
being a teacher, he has the summer off, and me being me, I have all day off.
I just wanted to point out that this is why it's important to surround yourself with folks that are doing good things because I watch a lot of like YouTube and stuff, but oftentimes they don't talk about like Mark, you trying to get through that storm of evictions and non-pays and all of that stuff and trying to just make it through, and then it's okay to coast because you're trying to just make it through, or like Dion, like how you were just saying, to look at the whole portfolio and really analyze it from that view. That those 2 things alone aren't really on a lot of YouTube channels.
Yeah, it gets really nuanced, and I'm not a whiteboard guy. Too often I'll do it sometimes, but you get anytime you get into numbers. So I try to teach the concepts. If you're thinking about money in a certain way, you'll start doing decisions, and the more people you get around that are also doing that, the more likely you are. I make jokes every now and then that I made a YouTube channel. This isn't why. so that I can grow it to the point where I can have people like Lumberjack Landlord and Michael Zuber do a portfolio review for me. Right. I made the YouTube channel because I was on Facebook and Bigger Pockets answering questions, and I realized I was answering the same questions almost every day. So why don't I just make a video? I put a link in here. And I thought maybe a couple hundred people would watch it. So I really made the videos to make my life easier, so I didn't have to give the same answers. But Curtis, would you be having this conversation if you weren't in the chat of these YouTube channels or going to the local Tacoma FI meetup or having your YouTube channel? What would it take to get somebody like Mark or myself to sit down and go, here's your position, here's all the angles of it, and here's what we think you should do?
Yeah, like this isn't a normal day conversation. I can't think of anybody at work or in my family that would be like, all right, let's talk about this, you know? And so just going to those things, being in the comments are kind of the almost like the cheat code.
Let's see. Hank
I have all the
Hill.
time you want if you want to go through questions in the chat. It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I'm fine. I got it. I don't have to take my parents for a little. I mean, it's early, but they got 2 appointments today. So that's my new job right now. I'm out on workers' comp right now for my waiting for shoulder surgery, but my life has become take my parents to all their appointments. It's fun in its own way. It's
So when you retire and you get into financial freedom, you become they take me to the airport person. Hey, I'm moving. You're not doing anything, and you're not going to have the schedule open like people think you do. Just
I'm
because you don't
getting
have
rid
a
of my
job.
truck. I'm getting rid of my
Your truck
truck
too, right?
so no one will call me to move anything.
Exactly.
That's the first thing I'm getting rid of. No, but yeah, it's been fun. I mean, it's fun in a different way. I mean, it's yeah, it's good spending time. It's better. It's better though when only one of them have an appointment, so I don't have to take both of them at the same time. Is one can't speak very clearly from the stroke and one can't hear, so it's a challenging conversation between the two of them. And yeah, let's see. Let me see what else we got. Oh yeah. This was Alex. It said network leads to the meetups, which lead to the time it takes to get past the awkward socials. Okay. Yeah. Have you been to the ORAD event yet? Alex, I believe that was Alex, the Desert Rats. So if you haven't, the ORAD event's a great place to meet up. Since we do have you here, Dion, we have been talking. Can we move the Denny's meetup to the one on Fremont? That has been the talk and discussion.
So I think we chose the other one just because it was closer to the blind center, but I'm at Fremont Street because that's where my people are. So it wouldn't bother me at all.
Yes.
All right. Because people were kind of, we went to, people were catching Ubers to the other location. Every Uber driver's like, you guys know where you're going? Like, you guys are going to the hood.
Fremont Street works. Just remind me as we get closer, and we'll say it in several videos before the event.
Right.
So I've got 2 events coming up. July 10th, I'm doing a live webinar on Bigger Pockets. I've never done one before. So with them, I can't imagine it's too different. There might be a few more people in the chat. And then in October, anybody who can go to Vegas, October 5th, 6th, and 7th is the BPCon 2025. I'm a keynote speaker there. And I believe I'll probably do a midnight Denny's meetup on Fremont Street then in October too, either before or after the event, not during the event. I got to be like rested for that. But yeah, that'd be cool. And if you're going to BPCon, they still have my code Dion50, gets you $50 off the ticket to go. And if you don't want to go to the event, but you're in Vegas, we're going to be doing LobbyCon, where we meet in the lobby.
All right. Well, maybe you can dig into this too, Dion. So Frank, I'm sure he's joking around, but he said, I'm starting a master class on how not to invest. It will cost $3,000 or $4,000 per year. What do you think about people paying for courses and classes and whatnot?
Well, there's probably several levels of it. There are people who get to Zuber's level, and then he'll go pay $10,000 to go to a meetup and get around certain people that are doing what he's trying to do next. Sure, makes sense. If you're starting out, $10,000 would be better lost on a property. Literally throw it at a bad property, what you'll lose, what you'll learn losing that good property is worth way more than what you're going to get at an event where the type of people that Zubra needs to hang out with now to get to the next level would get him anything. I'm like in Millennial Mike's court a little bit, where all of the information is on YouTube for free. Every course, there's no, you give away the secret, you sell the how-to. The secret is financial freedom is possible and that there is no secret to it. The how-to is which version is going to work for you. Now, the purpose of the course, of anyone's course, should be to filter down the information from the thousands of videos that it takes to create content and grow a community, down to the few that it is like, hey, start A to B. Here's what you do in chronological order. When you get to a certain point, and then access to that person. I made a free binder course. People could take the binder course for free. This is how my tenants raise the rent, how it works. The course is how it works with Section 8, how it works with a property manager, how it works locally, how it works when you're house hacking. Like, it covers all the different nuanced things of it, when to use it, the chronological time to use it. And I put it out there for free. It cost me 10 grand to put a free course out.
Oh, wow.
So if somebody has a course and it's $500 or less, maybe $1,000 or less, and they have done what you're trying to do. Now, the litmus test for me, if they didn't have a course, are they as successful as you would want to be? Right? If somebody's teaching you how to shoot better, I don't care if they make money off their course. But if somebody's teaching you how to make money, unless they're teaching you how to grow a course, their course better not be their main source of revenue, because then they're not teaching you.
How would you fact check them?
So like when Business Insider did an article on, have they done one on you yet, Mark? So probably need to recommend it to
No,
Christine
they haven't. Yeah.
So they go forensic. They go to county public records. They look at your leases. They look at your purchase, like when you bought the properties. So if you've been in Business Insider and they go, hey, here's an article we did on this person that accomplished this. There's other sources of verification too. How transparent are they with their portfolio? Do they actually, I mean, how many times is there somebody that's teaching how to get into real estate and you don't know if they own any? They don't show you pictures of their rentals. They don't show you interactions of them and their tenants. They don't show you, my tenant just moved out. Let me go show you what's in. Let me go inside and show you, put my gas mask on first and go in here and tell you how bad these people were living. Like, can you verify what they're doing makes money?
Mm-hmm.
There are some people who can't stand me. I'll name one of them. I won't name the other. One of them is a guy named Nate Barger. Hates my guts because he makes all his money off of teaching how to do the BRRRR method. And he tries to teach it to people who are starting out brand new in real estate. And so I went into some of his comments and I said, I'm a fan of the BRRRR method. I think it's great. I don't think it's a good strategy to start with. I think if you're starting out, you don't know how to get your after repair value right. You don't know how to get your timeline on repairs done. You don't know how to find your contractors. You're going to make a bunch of mistakes. Interest rates could triple like they did for Millennial Mike. And I just kind of gave some advice on, hey, get your systems in place, get your feet under you. People say, I want to do the BRRRR because I don't have any of my money in it. And I don't have any money. So they put thousands of dollars into some course on how to learn BRRRR. And apparently sharing what I think is my opinion of the truth of the BRRRR method is not a good one to start with. He's blocked me on everything. Like he's tried to badmouth me and everything, going, that he just doesn't understand. And I'm like, no, I do understand. If you've been doing BRRRR for 10 years when interest rates were going down and prices were going up, and a mistake was fixed by the market because you wait a few months and the price went up and the rate came down, it didn't matter. Great. And if you've been doing BRRRR for 10 years and you have your contractors in place and you get along with your city and you know your permit process and you know how much reserves to have, continue to do the BRRRR. It's not the perfect environment for it, but they'll do good. That new investor, one bad BRRRR deal will add decades to their investing. And so his money's from courses. I don't like that. There's someone else who's into the hustle culture, and I did a video or two with him, and he has told everybody how he can't stand me because I said, I don't like hustle people. I'm not a hustler. I hustled for a while. But like right now, I don't like Cody Sanchez. And so many people liked watching her. She will say how you don't ever want to own a rental. Rental is going to make you like $500 a month. What does that do to you? Then you just own a rental. You need a business. You need to be an entrepreneur. You need to put your money to work in all these creative ways. And I'm like, that is a nightmare. 9 out of 10 of those are going to fail in the first 5 years. 9 out of 10 of the ones that make it are going to fail in the next 5 years. Not everybody has the success bias of 1 or 2 working out to continue. And so, yeah, she's never going to be on my channel. I'm probably never going to be on anything she's on.
That guy, Nate Barger, what
Barger.
platform is that? I don't think I ever
So he's on YouTube.
Okay,
and
I gotta go
he's
look on him.
what happened, how he got famous or successful with the Burr method isn't from his burrs. It's because he made a Facebook group called Burr Invest. So you can find it. I'm promoting the guy who hates my guts. It's called Burr Invest. And he is he's probably good at the Burr method, probably successful at it. He makes more of his money off courses. And this is my opinion, of course. The Facebook group blew up because it was right around the time Bigger Pockets was making all of the videos on the Burr method. So everyone went to Facebook and searched for Burr. And so years ago, that group had over 70,000 people in it. And it's probably I've been kicked out because I don't think it's the starter method for investing. I didn't do it until I retired. I did it after retiring. And yeah, I made probably $300,000 or $400,000 in a year. Absolutely not worth doing.
So Joe V says, does any of Dion's tenants watch his videos or call him out on things like his binder strategy?
All the time. I've had tenants go, yeah, we did the binder. He showed me what the area average rents were. I'm getting a deal. They're super happy. I tell my tenants, I teach how to invest in real estate. And whenever I'm signing a lease, either with a new tenant or a lease renewal, I say, you should not be renting. This is a duplex. Did you know you can go buy this with an owner-occupied loan and you only need like 5% down? You could live in one side and rent out the other and probably almost live for free. If you ever want to learn how to do it, I don't charge. I have a YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and watch all my content. I tell them it's Dion Talk Financial Freedom. So yeah, my tenants watch it. They know because I literally have a course on the binder. Here's how I found the information. I went to Redfin and Zillow. I didn't doctor anything. I didn't make anything up. I made sure I found things that the tenants will find themselves. I showed what Section 8 will pay. I show what BAH is. Yeah. So is it funny sometimes when I make a cash flow video on how much money I make? Sure. Maybe watch the rest of the videos and learn about the decade it took to get there. Are you willing to do all of that? Then we'll complain.
Well, I also want to tell everyone I'm learning to speak Spanish a little bit through Flavio text messaging me every day because I got to try to translate what he's telling me. But Flavio says, problem is when it's free, people think there is no value.
That's true. So that's actually a marketing ploy that we used a lot at the CDL school and for my nonprofit. If you go to the binder course, it doesn't say it's free. I forget what amount I put. It says it's like $125 course. Line through it. Currently, you can get it for free. So the value is there, but today it's for sale. I'm going to leave it for free as long as I can. I think I'll probably take it down because it cost me, I don't know, a couple $100 a month to have the stupid thing up with the Zapier and something else, MailChimp, or there's a couple of weird things when you put a course together. AI is probably going to change all that in the future. But yeah, no, free means no value. So that's why you never go to a jewelry store and it says, hey, this is on sale. It's worth $800. This was $4,000. It's on sale. Today it's $800. You feel like you're saving something because free has no value. That's a brilliant point, Flavio. And Mark, the next time you're chatting with him, you text him this. You ready? Chupa me carne pistola. Just send that to me.
Okay.
I'll text it to you. You forward it to Flavio.
All right. He's
Hopefully
probably going to text me in a few seconds and start laughing. But Chester says Cody is a bit arrogant. She does have business savvy sense, but she acquired that arrogance from Wall Street.
She's brilliant and she's very successful. And people who want to be entrepreneurs, I would direct you to Cody Sanchez. I am not an entrepreneur.
We'll skip over a few to all the Cody ones first. So Dennis says, yeah, I thought I was the only one that got annoyed by Cody Sanchez. Jen Tam says, everyone is talking about Cody Sanchez, but I'm with Dion. I don't watch any of her videos.
I've tried. I really tried. And then there was a couple where she relates it to something that I want to hear about right now, currently with like AI or something, and get in there and it's still, there's only 24 hours in a day and she is trying to make you work all of them.
Dennis said Nate Barger is one of those guys that flaunts his lifestyle to get clicks. The same story of I went to prison, grew up with nothing, now I'm a multimillionaire. Whisper if you buy my course.
Mhm.
Great way to put it.
Let's see. Yeah. So Chris Webb, or he's Econ Webb here. He kind of says Cody's fine. Business ownership is not for everyone. So Chris also he did have a business before I think was it in Denver or I think it was in Denver or Colorado somewhere, but they had a cookie business. And I think it did well, but they sold it to someone else. But like he said, yeah, it just wasn't for them being a business owner and
No,
whatnot.
I will be the first to absolutely admit she is successful, and people that want that version of life should absolutely follow her. Like, I'm not saying it's not negative. It's not for me.
See, I think Flavio knows what you want me to text him. Let's see what else. Yeah. Alex, I don't speak Spanish, but I know what that meant. Oh, Jen Tax, I don't know what Dion said, but it sounds like somebody from a Taco Bell menu. Yeah,
If they
chalupa.
serve that at Taco Bell, don't go there.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys. Like I said, I got nothing to do right now. So if you guys want to hang, anything else you want to talk
I'll keep
about,
answering questions. I'm good as long as everybody watching is entertained by the questions answered and don't get offended by my bad words in other languages.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe. How's the book going? You know, when's that? When can we expect that out?
I'm probably 80% done with creating the book. Right. I don't want it to be too long. I want people to be able to pick it up and read it. So I'm trying to be concise. If the book was long, it would be a lot easier. You're just putting a bunch of information. I am trying to go, okay, in what chronological order would I want the least amount of information that will make me effective? Because this isn't a book of, there's a short chapter that's here's my story in case you haven't seen YouTube, but it's actionable steps. Here's screening process for tenants. Here's how to get the best interest rates. So when you're my goal is you'll listen to or read the book one time because it's a short book, right? It's going to be like 200 pages or less. And then when you're at a point of I'm doing this action in investing, you go to that book and you earmarked this is the section for, the versions of house hacking that I might not be considering currently or whatever I'm putting in there. So that's the format for the book. It's not a story start to finish, like you have to read it in order or anything. It'd probably make more sense because I'll reference, later in this book, I'm going to talk about why I invest in a blue state, not a red state. And I have a section of blue state versus red state. But you don't have to get that in order to understand what that chapter is about. Writing, not my strong suit. So I'm getting it there to 80%. I'm probably going to send a version to a couple of people and say, hey, go through this. Michelle has offered to translate into Spanish, which I might do, and then send it to her just so she could see what somebody that doesn't speak Spanish thinks it should look like, because I don't got the grammar or syntax. Then it has to go to editors. It's like if I was going to self-publish it, I would probably just go to Amazon and self-publish and then go to Audible once it's published, because I don't want to do the Audible until it's published. Because when I'm doing Audible, I will just correct everything through the book over and over and over. But I want it to be done. I believe I'm publishing it through the One Rental at a Time portal. So it'll go out through Zuber stuff. He has editors. Who knows how that's going? I've never had a book edited before, and I'm not a writer. One of my favorite lines is from Kiyosaki. He says, I'm not a what is it? Best written author. He's a best selling author. I could rather get information out than have good grammar, and people can tell me how dumb I am later. But the information will be there. I should be done within a month, I think, maybe 2. And then however long editing takes. And then the Audible thing will probably take 2 months after it'll come out in print first. And then Audible will probably be 2 to 3 months later.
Hopefully it'll be ready by the ORED event. That'd be cool to get some autograph copies or something,
I would
or
hope to.
get it signed there. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's there, I would bring a bunch to give away. The goal there is no one sells anything at the One Rental at a Time event. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely bring them to sign and give away.
Chester looks like he would like to talk about reserves. Yeah, Curtis, you want to lead that off?
Yeah, definitely important. I thought I had enough for this one, and then the HVAC went out, and I was like, "Oh boy!" And so, it's always important to have, and how much I guess kind of varies, kind of depends on what area that you're in, and kind of what type of properties that and you buy. Like if you do studs down and you rehab it all, well, you may not need to set aside as much every month because you already fixed everything, right? Or if you're buying in Pittsburgh where the buildings were made in 1800, well, you better set aside some because something's about to go wrong.
Sorry, I was replying to someone's comment. Yeah, I think definitely reserves is super important. I think that's what really, even though I went so fast in the beginning, that's what slowed me down. And that's kind of why, like I mentioned earlier, I've been sitting on my hands for kind of 4 years at the same time. There's always something that comes up, but at the same time, I'm also trying to build those reserves to where I'm comfortable in taking those next steps and putting myself in better positions. So I probably built up reserves to more than I need, but now I can just kind of make moves, make deals, and whatnot. So, but you also kind of realized after a while too that I think the biggest thing is figuring out how to even get money if you need money. In a sense, you want to have a certain amount of reserves to prepare and be in a good position. But I think what I found out too in the beginning was that, like, I think Curtis, I sent you that link to like that company that you can access like your credit card, right, for cash. Or I forgot was it Melio or those pay links where you can access your credit cards for the cash,
Oh yeah.
but it looks like a ACH payment, right? So
Hmm.
I had to get very creative in the beginning. So it does allow you to also look for different avenues to figure out how to get resources. But in a perfect world, yeah, you want to have enough reserves to probably cover, some big expenses and the worst case scenario. And like you said, to sleep well at night, right? It just allows you to not want to quit in the first few years. But yes, your hockey stick. Kenny Wong says, Dion, your video about the 10-year hockey stick graph video was great. Everyone at it. So just to remind everyone, the ORAT, the school community, had a NorCal meetup yesterday. Frank did a short live from the event. So if you haven't, go check out Frank's channel. He had a little live showing everyone there, but they were talking about the 10-year hockey stick. I don't know if you want to bring that back up or whatnot, Dion.
The 10-year journey, the idea is that you stress out in the beginning too. Your reserves also have a growth pattern that you should probably look at too. When you have one or two rentals, if you have $50,000 in an account, right, you're losing out growth. When you have 5 to 10 properties, if you don't have tens of thousands of dollars in an account, you're at huge risk because things can go wrong. So I will probably put in a link in the chat after the end of this video with a link to the video of the 10-year timeline that was made because of Curtis.
So Alex, I believe you are a new member in the school community. But so there is kind of meetups, people are posting things. So there is a NorCal meetup. Jen Tam, who's in the chat, I believe, but her, Kenny, Frank were there, Rusty and Katie, Jim was there. So they're trying to do a monthly meetup. Curtis and Dion also are part of the Tacoma FI. So that's another meetup kind of with the one rental at a time community.
I believe this Alex is in our Tacoma FI.
Okay, yeah. So I think he's
Yeah.
the one from school, right? The new member.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So check Jack. I think I don't know if it's official, but I believe Jack has reserved some dates in Pittsburgh to have a meetup. So he's trying to hold a small event. I believe it was September 3rd to the 5th or 5th to the 7th, somewhere around there. I'll try to check, but he's trying to put together like a one rent at a time kind of Pittsburgh meetup. So. Let's see. Yep. So
So
Plastique. That's the company. That's the one I sent you, Kurt. Yeah, for pulling money off your cards. I think there's Melio and Plastic. Yes. So
One of the hardest things to going to local meetups is finding one that isn't a sales pitch. So many, it's a brokerage, a lending agency saying, hey, we'll provide sandwiches or whatever. I prefer the way we do it with the local Tacoma FI. So if people are putting together meetups, don't look for sponsors. Free sandwiches isn't how you get people to come up to a meetup. You don't want the people that are there for free stuff. You want people that are there to have conversations with other people dealing with the same stuff in the same market. Facebook is a good place, but you can be kind of spread out. I like the local Tacoma FI. There's probably one out here on the Kitsap Peninsula too. But get around other investors, because the mindset is the same for a lot of aspects, even if they're investing in a different asset class like crypto or stocks or real estate or buy and hold versus flipping or whatever. It's getting around people that see the world a certain way, because the conversations you can have, parts of your vernacular you can't use around your friends and family anymore. If your friends or family hear you say the word cash flow, it sounds like a fake conversation to them. It's off-putting. But if you're around people who invest and you start talking about cash flow, they'll ask you questions to clarify what type of cash flow are you talking about. And it's until you get exposed to more and more people like this, you'll fight the lobster in a bucket or whatever it is, crab in a bucket mentality of all your friends and family trying to keep you where they're at, even if they think they have your best interest, because investing is gambling, investing is risky. There's going to be a crash, all of the things that they're going to use. Landlords are evil. Anybody who's wealthy is evil. They had to be, you can't have money unless you took it from someone else. You have to get around people that see past all of the BS and know that there is a better way to do things. And the sooner you do it, the better.
Flavio just sent me the translation. Oh, wait. Well, Mark Ham says, do you prefer keeping reserves on hand or having a line of credit instead? I asked because I have about $12K in reserves for 2 rentals, but one rental has $80K in equity, and I've thought about using a line of credit instead.
May I?
Sure.
So lenders will require certain things, and it changes on the size of your portfolio. So they might have a 4% of your gross worth or 3 to 6 months of your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payments, or whatever metric they have for. You have to have the cash on hand in an account, or 50% of a reserve account or a brokerage account for stocks can count for reserves, right? So that's what lenders will want. But you want to not fail. This is what reserves are for. Reserves they're not to satisfy a lender's needs, because that's the minimum. And lenders just want to be made whole if you lose your asset. Your reserves are so you don't fail. So let's say you have a line of credit, and I'm going to try to say this. The economic event that could cause you to need that line of credit could be the economic event that causes all lines of credits to disappear. So during the pandemic that you talked about, Mark, in 2020, Wells Fargo went out, canceled personal lines of credit. Next step would have been to cancel all home equity lines of credit. Right? So what if your HELOC is your reserve because you've got all this equity, and all of a sudden lenders won't lend to you, and then you get fired. So now you're not bankable. So a line of credit, credit cards, personal lines of credit, home equity line of credit is never a valid reserve account. This is my opinion. You might have a minimal amount in cash, 12,000 for 2 properties. I had 10 until I had, I think, 4 properties. Inflation would make me want 15 or 20 now, because that was 2013, 15, and 18. 10,000 was enough. But once it got above that, I went to 30. And yeah, I've had a version in 2020. I bought a 4-plex and I went down to $200 in total in my name in cash. I had nothing in a savings account, nothing in a checking account, $200. I had credit cards that had a 0 balance on them. I have a ton of properties with equity. I had a decent job, and I had cash flow from real estate, and I purchased a property that had existing tenants in place. So by February, I had over $10,000 in my reserve account just in 1 month. So I was in a position to do that. When starting out with the 2 properties you have, I would never, ever do that. The reason the lenders will take 50% of a retirement account is because you don't even have to take it out. You just have to prove it's there. It's because if you needed it, you're going to pay taxes and fines or fees, and you're going to have 50% or less available to use as your emergency. So the line of credit method, not a fan. because when times are bad for everybody, lending is going to disappear. I like to set an amount, and the idea, and it's not, when we first start, it's just like, I'm going to save a bunch because all kinds of things can go wrong. Well, I save a certain amount for reserves, but then I use this thing called the region beta paradox, where you're more likely to do something if it's easier. So if you put money in a saving account and you're getting 5% interest, are you motivated to go buy a real estate property that might get you a 6 or 7% return? Because that's a lot more work. So I want my money in a non-high interest bearing account when I'm in growth mode. So I'm motivated. That money's in the bank. It's losing money. It's losing value. It's like scratching the back of my caveman brain saying, find a property, take the money out of the bank, put it in the property. It's going to work way better for you. It's a motivation tactic. So if you find and you open up a Robinhood account and you say, all right, I'm going to put $50,000 in Robinhood because they're paying 4% interest right now. It's like 4.75 for 60 days. And then it's down to 4. But that's a significant amount of money coming in every month. Are you then going to be motivated to buy a property? So I don't want all of my money in a high interest bearing account. I want my reserves, which scaled with the size of my portfolio, got bigger because it's called Murphy's fourth corollary. Have you heard me talk about that? It's in a sequence of events can go wrong. If they can, they will, and in the worst possible order. So you will have more than one eviction at a time as you have more tenants. You'll have more than one HVAC system go out at a time. So yeah, your reserves need to grow, but don't have no limit, because everything above that limit should be put into the next investment.
I would just add, Mark, but go get the line of credit. Doesn't mean you need to use it, but I would just say have it, just so you can access it if you didn't need it or found something to use it for. And like Zuber talks about, if he does use his line of credit, he wants to be able to pay it back in a certain amount of time. But I would just get it, because usually they don't cost a lot, right? So usually the fees to open one up. So I would definitely look into at least having it. But that's to the other side of that, is make sure you're responsible with it, right? And make sure you're not buying, like going on trips and using it to fund your vacations and whatnot.
Also, if you have a lender that you work with, also talk to them to see how they would look at it for your debt to income. Because someone
If you
actually
take out a HELOC, they add 1% to a monthly payment. So if you have a $100,000 HELOC, it gives you a $1,000 payment factored into your debt to income ratio. Good point.
Let's see. Michelle's making sure I don't say what the translation is unless I swing that way. So Alex says, I was talking to Curtis about the different type of meetups. I don't like the salesman pitches. Yeah. I think that's the one thing I noticed too, and we always talk about it in the school community, one rental at a time community, is no one, I mean, even the Vegas event, yeah, no one is there. And then Dion touched on this, no one, the goal is not for anyone to be selling anything there. And yeah, everyone is there just to have fun, network, finally meet people in person that they've probably connected with in the chats and things like this and on social media. So yeah, it's a great place to just get to know people in person. Let's see what else. Yeah, Chris finally subscribed, giving him shit about that. Yeah, so Alex again says, I did learn more, though. It's just a balance of how I want to spend my time. I think that's the biggest thing. And, like Zuber talks about, audit your network and things like that. So, Curtis, for you, I mean, you're younger than me, so maybe it's a little harder for you, but like, how do you audit your network? Because I'm sure, like, for you, it's probably a little bit harder to separate, from people that maybe you grew up with or hung out with for a while. Like, my point is, it's easier for me to step away from that. But for you, how is that?
Well, it's pretty easy right away because now all my friends have gray hair. So,
Or no hair.
Or no hair, yeah.
or no hair, yeah. And so that's been kind of interesting. And like while they go out or they want to go on trips, well, I don't really do that stuff. So it's kind of easy to audit those folks out. Now that they're still in my life, right? Like I still talk to them, we still like comment on Facebook or whatever, but not really spending my time with them as much. Like what did I do? So like on Friday, I spent the morning and afternoon with this guy that's 75, like years old, right? And so, but if I wasn't in real estate, I may not have spent that time like learning from him or spending time with him, right? And so that's kind of one way that I audit is I go out and I search for people that are successful and say, hey, you want to have brunch or lunch or whatever?
Andreas Matos says, "Hey Dion, have you looked into triple net real estate? Seems like a real passive investment, unlike housing rentals."
There are a lot of people who are successful investing in triple net, and there's two main reasons why it's not what I would do. So yes, I've looked into it. I was running the CDL school. We were doing a lot of real estate research on whether we should own a campus or rent a campus. So I understand how triple net works. First, the magic superpower that the United States has that most of the world doesn't is 30-year fixed rate debt, owner occupied, low interest rate financing. Triple net purchases that usually get rented out are usually commercial loans. So you have a loan revaluation period, you have an adjustable rate, you have a net operating income that the lender can look at and say you need a 1-to-1 ratio, and this year you don't have enough leases going, so you either need to sell, refinance, or write us a six-figure check. There are some versions of triple net leases for properties that you can get fixed rate debt on, but I take it from the Charlie Munger method of don't chase 5 rabbits, you'll starve. You diversify once you're wealthy, but to become wealthy, you should focus on one asset and master it. I picked small multifamily in a market where I know the cash flow. I added house hacking a couple of times. So could it work? Sure. Would people that do it, are they successful? Absolutely. There's people who invest in stocks that are very successful, but that's not the one I mastered. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying I don't do it.
Yeah, so Andre, so I'm my family, we have a small commercial space. It was triple net lease. Now for whatever reason, like I said, I didn't. So these, like Dion touched on, there's just kind of different ways to evaluate. And at the time, back in that beginning, I had no clue on all these things. So for me, when the time was to renew and we found a different tenant, for whatever reason, we're paying property taxes on the property now. So it's like 30 something thousand a year. But so triple net lease is good. It is very passive. However, you're typically, if it's going to be triple net, you're not going to be getting as much net operating income because it's triple net. So you're not getting as much rent typically, because usually that person might sublease it or sublet it to someone else. So that's what we were doing initially. But luckily for us, there is no debt on the property. But my biggest takeaway is that with these commercial spaces, typically they take a lot longer to find a tenant. And a lot of times the leases are shorter periods. So you got to make sure you have a lot of reserves, because a lot of times you're going to be sitting a long time trying to find a tenant to get placed. And at the same time, the fees to hire these commercial brokers and whatnot is a lot higher than your typical real estate agent. So those are things you got to factor in for any type of commercial or triple net asset you're trying to acquire.
And one of the things with triple nets is a lot of times the leaseor will come in and go, hey, look, we'll totally rent this place from you, but you need to put about $50,000 into these are the changes we want to happen. You can increase the rent by these changes. You can factor that in, but that means that the owner has to have that money sitting there to make those adjustments first.
It's funny you mentioned that. Well, so we found a new tenant. They had plans of they were going to renovate or fix it up to how they needed it to fit their business model. But apparently there was work done that was not permitted. So now they would have to back pay all these permits to do the work that they want to move forward with. So actually the property has pretty much been unused for I mean, they're still paying every month their rent, but they basically haven't used it because they haven't been able to make it how they wanted it. And so we'll see how the renewal comes up in like a year and a half. And so right now they're actually trying to see if they can sublet it to someone else. So they asked us if it's okay for them to sublet it so that they can find a tenant. But that's where we're at on that. But at least they've been paying, so that's the good thing. Hey, Martin's here. Josh is here. So I don't know if you want to touch on it again. This was something Curtis, you touched on earlier in the chat. But what are the 2 things that tell you when you're ready to buy?
The reason Josh is asking is in my next members only meetup, I think Josh and someone else has a deal that we're going to look at, because my members meetup, so that's what we do. We look at a deal from start to finish, not just the math, all of the other things that makes it a good deal or a bad deal. And Josh has one he wants us to look at. And Josh has some things going on in his personal life. So the first text I sent to him was, you tell me, Josh, what are the two things that tell us when to buy? The first one is, are you ready? You've studied your market. Josh has. You save the money for the down payment, closing costs, immediate repairs, reserves, all that. Josh has. But there's nothing major going on in your life. That means you're also ready. No birth, death, divorce, none of the change of careers or health concerns or anything like that. So we'll look at the deal so you can stay on top of your market. That's good. But are you ready? You have to ask yourself. Second thing is, did you find a great deal? So we'll look at this deal and we'll see if it's a great deal or a good deal. And we'll see if we go forward with it or not, or if he should go forward with it or not.
Well, when is the members only? Because I know it kind of changes month by month.
It does. I try to random it so that I don't always have people who can make it and people who can't make it, because they are there in Futureland. Every members meetup is there from the very first one we did. I never take them down. Once in a while, we'll do a course call that we don't record so we could talk about the gray area sketchy stuff you can't put on YouTube because people would say that's illegal. Of course it's illegal. That's why we're doing it. But everything is legal with a fee. The members only this week is probably going to be Friday or Saturday. I'll take a poll tomorrow during my Tuesday live at 4:00, 4 p.m. Pacific. And I'll figure out, does everybody want Saturday or Friday? And we'll do the members only then.
All right, I guess we can wrap things up soon. We just Frank says, yeah, this is why being in a group like this is so critical. So many different people all doing all types of different things and sharing their experience, not just learning from one person. Yeah. All right. Well, this was fun. This was a good one, I think. Yeah. Hopefully we can do this more often. Glad Dion was able to connect his channel this time. And like he said, he's going live with his regular one on tomorrow, afternoon, early evening, depending where you're at. But that one's always fun also. But Curtis, thanks for doing this. Being on your summer break, I'm sure you have more time.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, if you get a chance, go check out Curtis's channel, my channel, subscribe, jump from Dion's channel and subscribe to our channels. And we'll see you guys again. Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.